back to the channel. Today I'll be jumping back in on the SN95 Mustang. My goal for this video is to get the remainder of the parts in primer and get a little bit of color laid down on the insides of everything. Get it mounted back on the car. That way everything will be primer on the outside and ready to go for its final spray. And hopefully within the next 2 videos this thing will be done. I have a few parts I have to order still, such as the cowl, a little plastic piece that covers the radiator, and some headlights, and the drip rail molding and everything on the driver's side of the car. So it's not going to be 100%, but it will be to the point to where we could almost final assemble this thing and get it finished. So I'm not really prepared as far as like hanging parts and everything, but I'm going to try to make as much room as I can in here and lay down some tarps. I've got some tables and sawhorses and stuff, and if I have to, I'll just lay it on the floor, spray it, let it dry, flip it, spray it, let it dry, flip it, lay down the color, and then mount it on the car. So that being said, guys, let's jump right in and hopefully get this thing done soon. Alright, so as you can tell from my pile of parts here, I've got a whole hell of a lot of sanding and prep work that needs to be done. And that being said, somehow my hood got a little bit of damage along the way, and I'm going to need to do a little bit of fiberglass work to that. The strands are actually starting to separate right here on the edge, so I need to seal that back up, body work that in. And since I'm going to be doing that, I have a couple of these broken A-pillar covers. This one was actually glued onto the car and it broke when I took it off, but this end's good. And I have this one from the actual wrecked car where this end broke off. So since I'll be doing a little bit of fiberglass work anyways on the hood, I'm going to try my hand at cutting this off here and cutting it here on this one, and then bonding the two together to try to save myself about $100 on a used part. Not everybody has these available, so this might be my best option. And if I can make it look good and make it work, it's worth a try. So I think we'll start with this, and then we'll get to the sanding and the prep work on all the remainder of the body parts, and then we'll get them painted up. Alright guys, so I'm going to focus on these A-pillar moldings first. I've got my long pants on and my nitrile gloves. Fiberglass is the devil. So anytime I've ever worked with this stuff and I gotten any type of dust or chop strand on my skin, it itched for days, and the only way to get it to go away is to take cold showers, and it's not fun. So wear your protection if you're going to be sanding or grinding on it at all. Wear a mask or a respirator. So to keep dust down, I'm actually going to cut it with this hacksaw blade by hand, and I've got my painter's tape marked at 1/2 inch on the edge, and I'm going to lay that edge right there on both pieces. That way I get a nice even cut, and then I can fuse those two pieces together. So let's get started on that, and then we'll jump on the hood. I chose to make my cut where I did is due to this tab, and I don't want too much buildup in this area because this is made to sit flush up against the car. So what I'm going to do is use a 2-part epoxy to bond the pieces together to make it a little more rigid and easier to work with. And then I'm going to lay down a chopped cloth and resin on the back, and then a fine weave on the front to make it a little bit easier to bodywork, to make it look good. Well guys, I think that turned out rather well. Just a little bit of body work before primer, and I think this thing will be good to go. Now on to the arduous task of sanding and more sanding. Here's my hood. I actually had to cut a chunk out there and build that up with chop strand mat and resin. I had a crack running along here. I ground that out and laid down fine mesh there and resin. Same thing here, and also got my fine mat and resin laid down on this piece. So everything should be good and strong. I'm just gonna need to do a little bit of sanding and some body work. Hopefully I can make it look good. That way I don't have to buy new parts. got to remove these decals before I can scuff the doors up, but I believe that's all I have left is the 2 doors. I'm going to wait on the front and rear bumper until I do the final spray on the car, but let's go ahead and get these removed, get these scuffed up, and get the painting. Alright guys, thank God that's done. That was ridiculous. I've got a little bit of glazing putty and body filler work to do, but I'm not going to bore you guys with that. And unfortunately more sanding. But I will see you guys tomorrow when I'm ready to paint. Alright y'all, so it's time to lay down some primer. Unfortunately, I didn't get the body work done in time on the hood, which fortunately kind of made me some room. I'm not working with a whole lot here, but I will paint the hood when I do the front and rear bumpers before I put those on the car. So as of right now, all I need to do is wipe everything down with lacquer thinner, get all the oils and everything off of the surfaces that I'm going to be painting. And I know, guys, this is not the proper way to do this. I know I'm going to get some comments, but I'm working with what I have, and this is the way that I got to do it. I'm on a time crunch, and I don't have a whole lot of materials at hand, so I'm making the best of it. But let's get some primer laid down and get this thing knocked out. going to start hanging the panels. I'm going to start on the trunk lid. Your best friend when you don't have a helper is a nice thick quilt. You can go ahead and lay that down, and that'll assist you in not damaging any of your new paint or anything. But I had a little bit of a mishap the other day. My gun decided to explode on me due to the regulator failing. It hit about 150 psi, and it's only rated at 35 to 45. So needless to say, I got a little paint in places I don't want it, but it's dry. It won't be a big deal. I'll go ahead and sand it off before I paint the remainder of the body. So let's jump in right now, start on this trunk panel, and we'll move to the front. Now onto the passenger door. I've got my latch assembly here, and I'm going to go ahead and put that back in. The door handle side, I'm just going to zip tie up there for now because I'm going to have to move it around and stuff when I'm putting the regulator back in. So it'll be a little easier. But I've already got the latch on the body side mounted, and that's going to assist me in setting my door in there, and I can hold the front up while I put my brackets in. And I've already chased all my holes, make sure I don't have any paint in my threads to make this job even harder. So I got my blanket. I'm going to try to set the door in there on the latch and go ahead and put my brackets in. Alright, so same exact thing on this side. I did fail to mention that this nut, or alignment pin, or whatever you want to call it, has a specific orientation. So it lines up with this indent in your bracket. This is your top bracket. And then the one with the stopper on it is actually your bottom bracket. to the driver's side fender. So I've got 2 shims and 2 8mm bolts down here. I got 2 10mm bolts here and 3 8mm bolts across the top. There's also a bracket that goes here, but I'm going to leave that off until I mount the bumper. Guys, that is a wrap. I've got the trunk lid on, temporarily got the spoiler mounted, temporarily got the fuel door mounted. Doors are on, fenders are on. The fenders will have to come back off, so I wasn't too worried about getting my gaps perfect, but they are good enough for paint. I still need a couple shims in the front, on the front 2 bolts, and of course those 2 brackets I was talking about. But I will have to take the fenders back off anyway, so it's not a big deal. But it's starting to look like a car again, guys. I'm excited. Join me on the next video. We are going to thrash and get this thing finished. I'm getting it out of here so we can get another project in. So like, share, and subscribe. And as always, guys, see you on the next one.